Hi everyone, my name is Erin Smith, and I just wanted to share my journey for IVF and what that involved. I know a lot of you are looking to Facebook and to a lot of other social media to sort of relieve anxiety, I guess, because there's so much to know about it. And I thought if I could share my story, that it might help anyone, even if it just helped one person. That's great because a lot of these videos helped me. So about 7 years ago, actually even before that, 10, I'm married 12 years now, and we were married 1 year and then traveled a bit and then decided to have kids. And I didn't think it would be any problem because on my mom's side, there are 10 children, and my dad's side, there's 7. So I naturally thought when it came time that I wanted to start a family, it would be very easy and simple. Turns out it was not. It was a year of trying, and during that year, as I recall, I did countless methods, as I'm sure if you ended up at this video, you've tried already. So my doctor suggested that I go to the fertility clinic and just get things checked out there. So I was pretty much heartbroken about even just the mention of a fertility clinic because I didn't even know what it was, that they were available or this was a thing. So I had called the fertility clinic and asked them if I could come in without my husband even knowing, because I just felt, well, I guess I'm broken, so I need to fix me. And that's where the journey sort of started, where I needed to communicate a lot better with my husband and figure out what was going on. So that year, I took a lot of time to figure out how to basically tell my husband that it's not working and we need to do something else, and that I would need his support to go figure this out. He was so amazing about the whole conversation. I brought it up one night and I remember it, and he was like, sure, when do you want to go? Just let me know and I'll book it off. It was just so easy for him, which took all my anxiety away and made me feel so, okay, maybe this isn't as big of a deal as I thought. So we went into the clinic, probably a week or two later, I can't recall really. And at the time I was 29. So the doctor looked at me and he said, we'll have you pregnant in a month. And I said, great, let's do that. And 4 years later, I got my first son. So what happened? It turned out I was pretty much an anomaly. I went through every hormone treatment that you could probably think of. They tested everything. They tested my husband. They tested me for so many things. I remember 1 year I had to go on I think it was 3 months of hormones that would put me in premenopause state to restart. And I don't have severe endometriosis, but I did have some. I don't have blocked tubes. I don't have anything that was covered by medical OHIP at the time. So it's nice to see that after all this time that some of these things are covered. So it's amazing, because it's devastating when you think, oh, I always wanted 4 kids. It's devastating to think that I might not have any. That was not my plan. I was going to go to school, I was going to work, do my job, stay home and have kids. So when that was a choice taken away from me, I really struggled with, well, what do I want now? Who am I going to be now if I'm not going to be a mom of 4? And even now, just a mom of 1. So the premenopausal state didn't really work very well. So it didn't work at all. Everything else in between didn't work at all either. So I tried a lot of doses, and let me think of what it was. Oh, geez. Um, they were really expensive too, and it was like $100 a shot, and I had to take that every single day. It'll come to me. Anyway, all of the fertility drugs, you name it, I've been on it. On top of that, I did massage therapy. I've done acupuncture. I did this other naturopathic thing where you light cotton or something to open the chi and everything else. I did counseling to see if it was maybe a mental blocks. I've done all of the things that it's said to do to make fertility better. In the end, we ended up doing IVF. The first IVF was promising. I had, if I recall, 12 follicles come up, and those didn't work. There was the eggs that they had taken out were weak at some point, and they didn't fertilize so well, and so they fizzled when they were trying to actually create the embryo and a whole bunch of other things for transfer, getting ready for transfer. So the second IVF we did a couple months later, once we prepared for everything, they gave me another hormone that would make and strengthen the eggs as they were developed for harvesting, which is when they take them out. Now, harvesting is a little bit uncomfortable. I mean, the whole process of IVF is uncomfortable. You go in for blood work and ultrasound every single day. You have to drop your veil of shyness and somewhat privacy, because basically everything about your fertility is needing for review. So every single morning before you go to work, you go for your blood work and ultrasound, just as like you would go pick up a coffee. So you work that into your schedule, which is really stressful. And a lot of the women there, I'd sit in the waiting rooms, and it was about 7 years for one lady that was trying, and she was sitting beside me, and I've grown to meet and know quite a few amazing women and now mothers. So they all keep each other hoping. It's a quiet room, and I wish that every morning those waiting rooms would talk, because you're all there for the same thing. But at the same time, everybody's so worried and cautious. So it's so quiet in there, and they're just getting and hoping that they make it to work on time so that they get their blood work and ultrasounds done. And so the whole stress of that is just another layer on everything. But you get to know the staff really well and become friends with a whole bunch of people there. So try and keep that in mind, but it does help the journey a little bit. So, where was I? Yeah, the harvesting for IVF is uncomfortable. It's you get booked in, you go wait, you get your appointments, they call you in. It doesn't take more than like half an hour, if that. They go in and they harvest, which goes in with the same ultrasound wand as you would have for your blood work and ultrasound in each morning, and harvest eggs out of ovaries and count them and make sure that you have a lot of healthy ones and hoping for the best, right? So when I did my second IVF, it turned out to be really great. I had 18 follicles come up. Now, that was a lot. They were going to cancel my cycle, and I said, absolutely not. I don't care if I have 11 children, I'll move out to a farm. So I was overstimulated, but they had to give me the maximum of everything. And it was I felt like a stuffed chicken. That's what I do remember. I mean, I've this second IVF did work, and I'll let you know that. The first one ended up in a miscarriage, and I had a chemical pregnancy along the way. Through all that, I got kidney stones. Those were very painful at the same time as I was dealing with a miscarriage, so that was really fun. But all this leading up to second IVF, 11 eggs fertilized, so that was amazing. And out of those 11, 8 stayed. So I did the fresh cycle, and they did 2 embryos because of the low viability, and there was high viability depending on which embryo they chose, right? So these are all graded apparently. Yes, there's an inside of the egg and an outside shell, and those are all graded, but basically your doctor should know which one he chooses, and it's based on a plan. So for us, the fresh cycle, based on 1 really viable and 1 weaker, 2 embryos go in, and I had my son 9 months later. So, and he was perfectly healthy, the pregnancy was easy, everything, easy, like it was still a pregnancy, but everything went well after that. It was 4 years that came to. Through this time, mostly the way I would try and think of everything is it's going to happen, and try and let go of all the stress. It's going to happen, and it doesn't matter how long it'll take. And some can say because it's very expensive that it's going to take until you run out of money, and me. I met many women who were saying it's their last treatment, and they have gone through so much, remortgaging houses, selling cars, you name it, to get that far. And that's the sad part, because what can you do? What can you say? So the second IVF worked, and we had our son, and still I have a lot of embryos left in the freezer. So when my son was 10 months, they said, come back once he's about 9 to 10 months. So we did, and right away wanted to start the next cycle just in case there's any other issues. By that point, I had 8 frozen embryos, and the next cycle went through, but now we had a lot better knowledge on hormonal growth, and what does and doesn't work with me with progesterone and a whole bunch of other levels of hormones. So when you get to that point, it can become a lot easier depending on what you have left in stock, and if you have to do another IVF completely all over again. So the second one was transfer 2 more embryos, and my daughter was born she was the second, and she was 1 of 2 embryos. When I say that 1 of 2 embryos, what happens to the second one, it becomes what they would call phantom twin, I think, and it just reabsorbs. So you don't even realize that, and so you get your single set of your 2 embryos. So I had my son and my daughter first, and I still had, I believe it was 4 left, because every time they thaw, some of the thawed embryos don't actually take, right? So even though I had 8, there may not thaw properly, or they might be not viable enough, and so they'll take those out of the transfer stock. So the next time was, 10 months after my daughter was born, we went back for another transfer because we still had 4, and they transferred another 2. So my son was one of two, a daughter one of two, and then another two of two, and this one happened to actually take to two of two. So then I had the twins. And that again was another fairly easy pregnancy. The freezing for those embryos obviously went well. They were highly viable. They even said that when the twins were going in, they said that these are very viable. Would you, it was up to me whether or not I wanted to. And I said, do both because I'm used to two of two. And even if I had twins, that's okay with me. And at that point, I was okay about not being pregnant forever. So I did two of two, and we got two of two. So we had twins 9 months after that. And so the interesting thing for my story is that with the IVF process, we did get 4 kids. And our dream family, which I know is really cool, and if you're listening to this, you're just kind of hoping the same thing happens. I've been there. I get it. Yes, it's really cool. But it can be such an emotional toll. And while you're going through this whole thing, and even though I had embryos, and I should mention the other embryos fizzled, so we actually did end up with just 4 viable children out of the 11 that we started. But the cool thing is that science gave us our family and the opportunity to do this. Now, they're all twins, so that's cool. They're all twins. All 4 are twins, separated by time. They could have been in any order. I could have had the twins first, and I could have had my son last. And that's the really kind of interesting thing, because they're all from the same batch of harvested IVF, and they're all doing well. I did no coffee for the first, half the coffees for the second, and full-on coffees for the twins, and they're all fine. They're all the same. I did fully organic for the first, I did half organic for the second, and pretty much whatever I could find for snacking on and eating for the twins. And they're all fine. And not to say that it's taking away from anybody's experience, it's just I learned there's a lot to relax about once you get there, and then it's okay. So whatever you want to do, just do it. Whatever makes you relaxed and happy and healthy, then just go ahead and do that. Now my kids are 6, my son's 6'4", and the twins are 2. And I'm doing my stories because I first have time and I'm emotionally in a better place. They take a lot to do IVF and then get your kids home. I remember when I first got my son home, I cried on the bed because he was here, like not in the hospital, not potentially going to have something go wrong. He was home and we were done, that one thing. So, and that took 5 years by the time he was home. So it was an emotionally exhausting, draining thing, because mentally you have to actually be really tough to just get there and get them home, get them out, get them built, get them ready, and then raise them and start again if you can, or you can, have the ability to do another cycle. So that's really my story. If it does help anybody, I'm really happy to answer any questions you would have. I'm in Canada, and I know that our cycles are now covered for, I believe it's 1 cycle, which is amazing. It gives just another chance to try that one thing. Like I said, it took 2 for me, 2 IVF tries. So whatever helps. And I'm going to continue vlogging my journey with my kids and with myself. After you go through a lot of hormonal challenges, such as fertility, and then having your kids, which is another thing, and then getting them settled and having that all done and knowing that you're relaxed and you're in a safer place with having all the kids there, you start turning back onto yourself. And yeah, you kind of put yourself aside, because before I'd do acupuncture and I'd do all this, but it was for an end goal. It wasn't really it's not going there to relax and, just have a massage and whatever. Your brain is on, let's get this fixed and figure it out and get a kid. It's not, I'm just a little stressed and can you just take it out of the back neck a little bit. It's a very different body you're going to be living in, because you're trying to make it ready to potentially be pregnant in some healthy way, right? So I'm starting this video log to tell you about a whole journey of things that I've been doing over the last 6 years. And if it helps anybody at all, that's great. And I'd love to hear your stories, and if there's anything that I've said that you'd like me to expand on or whatever, just comment below and I'm happy to answer any questions. It might take me a while because now I have 4 kids that are usually running around. They're just, twins are napping, the other 2 at school, but I will promise to try and answer everybody's questions. So hopefully that helps. And these are our 4. So keep your hope. It'll happen. I know it's a really long journey, but well worth it, whatever you do. And 6 years ago, I would have never thought that this would be the case. So keep a strong mental heart about this whole fertility process. It works. Good luck.